Hello everyone, this is Jabra here. I'm going to talk about Hey Arnold, the Jungle movie. If some of you do remember about the show Hey Arnold, that was on Nickelodeon years ago, I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch this show over and over. It was very good. And then I haven't seen the first Hey Arnold movie since this is the second one. When I heard that there was going to be a second movie about Hey Arnold about his parents, well, he find them. Since they only mentioned in the episode the journal, only be seen in that episode. But since after the show was over, there was no mention how and what happened to Arnold's parents after the episode was over. But since he found a map in the journal was going to lead to his parents and the so-called the Green-Eyed People. When I first heard about this movie was going to be released, but then it was cancelled until 2017 when it was aired on TV on Nickelodeon. And I first heard about this movie, and when I read about it on Wikipedia, I saw that some of the actors might not be the same from the show. Some either has been grown up, or someone had passed away. And from on that part, the show itself was very much great actually, but in the movie, it seems they had grown a little bit from the show itself. But what can I say except from this movie and from the show? Well, from the show, I can say this that Helga is still much in love with Arnold. And even somehow she's helping Arnold to win this trip for San Lorenzo where he could find his parents. But he promised his grandfather not to do it because this La Sombra is an evil river pirate in La Sombra who's causing the last scene of his parents. Much of the movie itself is one about Arnold is trying to find his parents in the country. Even his friends was not unaware about it, except Gerald. But he said that he want to go to find his parents, at least find Gerald. No, Eduardo, who is as a friend to his parents. From the basic part where I can understand from the movie itself, it was kind of a bit mature from the show itself, because in the show it was more childlike adventures, but in this movie it takes another step of another level. It becomes more serious, because in finding the Green-Eyed People, they had to go through some sort of path which was found in the journal, but they were also booby-trapped on the way back to this lost city to the Green-Eyed People. Most of the story on this basic, it is to find lost parents or lost member or some their loved ones. What I can understand from almost a basic story here, that to find someone you have missed so long, it is honored and honorable, and sometimes can be much painful. Because many of the other before when this show was ended, there were a lot of discussions to what happened to Arnold's parents. Did they died in the show, or just vanished without a trace? Because they were never mentioned before that episode, or after, except in the movie itself. Nothing was answered ever never mentioned about his parents before the last episode of the show. But in this movie, we will get more detailed about his Arnold's parents and his family, and especially his grandmother, who can basically understand what his pig is talking. And that was something how to say, weird, but strange. Mostly strange, but how can a human being be able to understand a pig talking? That was something I just, wow. But most of the time when Arnold, Gerald, and Helga find the lost city of the Green-Eyed People, but only to find children. All the adults in the city has been put into sleep by this strange sickness. Sleeping sickness has been spread out in the entire country. Then we will find out what happened to Arnold's parents after they left the United States. That they traveled back after they tried to save the Green-Eyed People once before with this disease. But then it was another outbreak, but this time they didn't have enough cure. All the serum they had with them only lasted for some time until they ran out. They had no more. Until they themselves became victims of this sleeping sickness. And the children looked after the city and their parents for 9 years. And also, just one funny part of this movie. In the series, we did never know about exactly what Arnold's short last name was. Until now. It is Arnold Shortman. I mean, come on. Shortman as the last name? That was the name that I did not expect to hear. I thought maybe like Jones or um, Erickson, but mostly like Jones. But this, wow, was original, really. But most part of the movie itself. But I, well, this movie was not one of my personal favorites. But it was still good enough. But what can I say from this? That in this in the Arnold show, Helga never told Arnold how she felt for him until now. Now she was able to tell Arnold how she really liked him so much. And even Arnold somehow started to feel the same way for her. Because they kissed each other at the end. And somehow started to date. Which wouldn't be more surprised since Helga's been in love with Arnold for some long time. And when Phoebe and Gerald started to date as well. And most of the characters in the show, their personality was still the same, but even they had matured a little bit more than from the show. Phoebe still smart as before, like a genius almost. Gerald, like is confident, brave, but at the same time scared personality, almost the same like this before. And even he wants to be like serious personality, but most of the story from the movie itself was something that I didn't expect to see from what I seen from the show. Most part of the show itself was, well, more like children adventures, but in this movie it was more deeper and danger and more serious adventure, like life and death series, because the sombre was in behind of Arnold, Helga, and Gerald in to find the lost city. If that happened in the show, they would never been stopped. They would never been in any sort of serious trouble because they would have probably been saved by the cops or any either some other the parents or Arnold's grandparents. But now when they were in middle of the jungle, there would not be any possible for any of them to be saved, except to find the lost city. Maybe find the green-eyed people so that they could save them from the Sombra. But most of the series and the show, from the show and the movie, has similar personalities, but the same, a little bit different. I did like this movie, but it wasn't not that one of my top favorites actually. It was good enough, at least what I think of what could at least worth to see, maybe a few times more. But if I have to say, if I had to place this movie like in one of top five, well, probably top five or six, well, maybe five or four between there. And what rating will I give this movie? Well, it would not be a top topic, not a top rating for this one. It will be maybe C minus at most. The story has what's more than from the show, but more adventure, more serious action, adventures, but also see how the characters had matured over some time since the show was ended. And now I would like to hear what all of you think if the movie has been taken a forward step further from the show and from the movie, and what you think about it. You can leave all that in the comment box below, and I would like to, as always, subscribe, leave a comment, and as always, this is Swedish Double over and out.